Senator Nick Sacco has introduced a bill that would criminalize failing to report a missing child to authorities within 24 hours. Now, named Caylees law, the bill seeks to prevent future situations like the tragic death of Caylee Anthony, who was not reported missing for 31 days after her disappearance and was later found dead. Caylees law would make the failure by a parent or guardian to report a missing child under the age of 13 to law enforcement within 24 hours a fourth-degree crime, punishable by imprisonment of up to 18 months and/or a fine of up to $10,000. It would also upgrade the failure to report a death to the appropriate authorities in a timely manner and/or the disturbing evidence of a death from a disorderly person's offense to a fourth-degree crime. Assemblyman John Winooski is sponsoring an identical bill in the State Assembly that will be introduced at its next session.
Your local news leader in high definition. This is News 12 New Jersey.
One New Jersey lawmaker wants to make sure the Garden State never has to deal with its own Caylee Anthony situation. Under the proposed Caylees law, parents could be charged with a crime if they take more than 24 hours to tell police about a missing child younger than 13 years old. The bill is named after Caylee Anthony, who wasn't reported missing for 31 days. Her mother, Casey Anthony, was charged but eventually acquitted of her murder. Senator Nick Sacco thinks the trial's publicity will help get this bill passed.
I think it certainly will. I just passed the bill around to Democrats, and just about everyone signed on right away, so it seems to have a great deal of support.
A similar bill will be introduced in the Assembly during its next session.
The news is now. Lawmakers are taking steps to avoid future cases like that of little Caylee Anthony, who was not reported missing for 31 days. New Jersey State Senator Nick Sacco introduced a bill today that would make it a crime if you fail to report a missing child to authorities within 24 hours.
If they're missing, there must be an obligation for them to report it to the authorities. And if there was any ambiguity about that, this legislation introduced by Senator Sacco clears it up.
The bill would make the failure to report a missing child within 24 hours a crime, punishable by up to 18 months in prison and $10,000 in fines.
In New Jersey, lawmakers are pushing for Caylees law. It comes in the wake of her tragic death. It would require parents to report a missing child within 24 hours. Joel Waldman is in our newsroom with details. Good evening, Joel.
Good evening, Brenda. Here's a copy of the new bill that New Jersey lawmakers introduced. It does not even have an official number yet, but that doesn't mean that local politicians are not hard working to try to turn this into law.
As to the charge of first-degree murder, verdict as to count 1. We, the jury, find the defendant not guilty.
And with that, Casey Anthony was found not guilty of murder. She goes free Sunday. But now New Jersey lawmakers are making sure if someone commits a similar crime here, that person will face additional charges.
It criminalizes the act of not reporting a missing child for 24 hours, 13 and under.
2,000 children go missing each day. It would make it a fourth-degree crime to not report that child missing.
It'll be known as Caylees law, and State Senator Nick Sacco and Assemblyman John Wisniewski are each introducing bills in their respective houses of the state legislature. But some are stunned this needed to be done in the first place.
The notion that we'd even have to pass a law to say that you ought to report a child missing within the first 24 hours is mind-boggling.
How does a parent not report a toddler who's missing for over 30 days?
A question an entire nation is still asking, and one lawmakers in New Jersey hope never needs to be answered here. At least 16 states already introduced a similar version of the bill. New Jersey lawmakers say it has strong support on both sides, and they hope it's signed into law by the end of this year. Brenda, back to you.
Thanks, Joel.
BIOS 1 News.
Prompted by the verdict in the Casey Anthony trial, lawmakers in New Jersey are working on a new bill aimed at preventing a similar situation from happening here. BIOS 1 News reporter Mariah Sparks has more.
It's been 1 week since the Casey Anthony verdict shocked the nation. The mother accused of killing her 2-year-old daughter, Caylee, was acquitted of murder charges, an outcome lawmakers in New Jersey weren't satisfied with.
With the verdict, as shocking as it was, it became obvious that there were certain parts of the law that are just not where they should be.
And what's most disturbing for many is that Anthony didn't report her daughter missing for 31 days. Almost 5 months later, Caylee's skeletal remains were found. But under the proposed Caylees law, failing to report your child missing immediately would become a crime.
If they're missing, there must be an obligation for them to report it to the authorities. And if there was any ambiguity about that, this legislation introduced by Senator Sacco clears it up.
Now, legislators say the details haven't been ironed out just yet, but it will call for parents or guardians to report a child under the age of 13 missing within 24 hours.
A lot of the outcry over the case wasn't just the verdict, was that there was nothing that could be done after the verdict. Okay, there was lying to the police. There were 2 more charges right here that she could have been charged with and found guilty of.
Now, those charges include a punishment of up to 18 months in jail or a $10,000 fine. Now, a similar proposal in Florida could make it a felony for a parent or guardian to not report a child under the age of 12 missing after 48 hours. And there's an additional felony to not report a child's death. Legislators say that if a similar law had been in place in Florida and Anthony had been convicted, she could have faced another 15 years behind bars. In North Bergen, I'm Mariah Sparks, BIOS 1 News.
Senator Sacco says that he's receiving strong support from the bill from other Democratic senators and hopes to have the bill passed by this September. Lawmakers in New York are working on a similar law.
From New York 1, your New Jersey News Now.
Well, some New Jersey lawmakers are taking steps to avoid future cases like that of little Caylee Anthony, who was not reported missing for more than a month. State Senator Nick Sacco has introduced a bill called Caylees Law, which would make it a crime if you fail to report a missing child to authorities within 24 hours. The move comes after last week's acquittal of Casey Anthony of murder and the death of her 2-year-old daughter.
If they're missing, there must be an obligation for them to report it to the authorities. And if there was any ambiguity about that, this legislation introduced by Senator Sacco clears it up.
Similar bills are being proposed in at least 16 states, including New York, Florida, and Texas.
Your local news leader in high definition. This is News 12 New Jersey.
Make sure that the Garden State never has to deal with its own Caylee Anthony situation.
There's a proposal called Caylees Law. Parents could be charged if they take more than 24 hours to tell police about a missing a child younger than 13. The bill is named for Caylee Anthony, who was not reported missing for 31 days. Her mother, Casey, was just acquitted of her murder. State Senator Nick Sacco thinks that's the publicity will help get this bill passed.
I think it certainly will. I just passed the bill around to Democrats and just about everyone signed on right away, so it seems to have a great deal of support.
A similar bill will be introduced in the Assembly during its next session.
5 days before Casey Anthony is scheduled to walk free in Florida, there is a new push in New Jersey to enact Caylees Law. One state senator has just introduced a legislation named after Caylee Anthony. Last week, her mother, Casey, was acquitted on charges in Orlando. She murdered her daughter in 2008. Anthony waited a month to report Caylee was missing. The New Jersey law would require parents to report a missing child within 24 hours.
It was not a crime before. There was no obligation legally to report that child.
Law would also make it a felony not to report a death. At least 16 states, including New York, have introduced a version of Caylees Law.
From New York 1, your New Jersey News Now.
Some state lawmakers are pushing for legislation that would make it a crime for parents or guardians to fail to report a missing child within 24 hours. State Senator Nick Sacco introduced Caylees law Monday, which makes the failure by a parent or guardian to report a missing child under the age of 13 to law enforcement within 24 hours a fourth-degree crime. The bill is named after little Caylee Anthony, whose disappearance was not reported for a month. She was later found dead. The child's mother, Caylee Anthony, was found not guilty in her daughter's death.
With the verdict, as shocking as it was, it became obvious that there were certain parts of the law that are just not where they should be. A person could not report a child missing for 30 days, and it wasn't a crime.
An identical bill will be introduced in the state assembly. Similar legislation is being proposed in 16 other states, including New York.